For some years, I even thought that not coming to the NCAA was going to be possible for me at all.
Wow.
So I feel like finding the right mentors was definitely something that really built my career. Of course, my main mentor will always be my mother. I feel like she's like the strongest and hardworking woman that I've ever met. And
Welcome to Becoming Heard, the podcast where we talk about becoming heard without filters. It's with your host, Estefania. Here, through some coffee table conversations, this is a space for women who are still learning, unlearning, and choosing themselves every day. So grab your coffee and get comfortable. My guest for today is Maria Alejandra. Hi, Maria.
hi.
Okay, for the people that doesn't know me, Alejandra is one of my best friends. We have been friends since high school, and she's gonna tell us her story today. So welcome to
Thank
Becoming
you.
Her.
I'm so pleased to be here and being able to share my experiences with you.
Okay, so can you start introducing yourself, Maria?
Okay, of course. Oh, well, nice to meet you all. My name is Maria Alvarado. I'm from Nicaragua, just as your host. And I am currently a student athlete at the University of Utah. I've been in sports my whole life, and that's how I am at this point. I am currently a sophomore, and I am still undecided between doing political science and economics. So I think that will describe me overall.
Yes. Maria's a track star, and I really admire you. So we have been friends for so long. Okay, so let's start with your childhood. Let's start with like what happened before being a track star. So when you were a kid, did you practice any other sport? How do you balance all that?
Well, I think I've been always a very active kid. Well, starting just in the streets outside of my house, playing with my neighbors. I was like, always running around and, doing races, but I didn't know track was a sport. And I used to like enjoy like dancing, and I was in ballet and jazz classes just when I was 3 years old. And I did that for like 5 to 6 years. And then I joined in the volleyball team in my school when I was like 7, and at the same time, I started doing gymnastics. So, because my aunt had a gymnastics studio, and one day I was in the studio without being an athlete, and I was just like messing around, and one of the coaches saw me, and she said that she wanted me to be in the team. So I joined.
Wow.
So there was a point in which I had to decide between volleyball, dance, and gymnastics because I couldn't do like the three of them. So I ended up dropping eventually dance and volleyball and became a full-time gymnast for like around maybe 5 to 6 years too.
That's a lot. And when you were a gymnast, like how do you compete? Like how could you describe us all that, and how do you balance that with like school? Because you were pretty active.
Yeah. So I feel like for gymnastics, I joined when I was like 9 and ended up leaving gymnastics when I was like 14. So definitely time balancing was a must for me because my school was also very intense with academics. So I feel like gymnastics was like a wonderful process in my life because it taught me like discipline, resilience, and any other, other values that sports get. But it's also like a very mental sport for girls, especially if the environment it's not very adequate for like girls'
Mhm.
mental health. So, um, I ended up, yeah, balancing academics very well. I used to go to school from 5 a.m. Sorry, like 5:30 a.m. to maybe 2 p.m. and then just catching a bus from school to the gym every day from maybe like 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. and then just doing homework for the night. And it was very tiring, not gonna lie to you, but I think it was all worth it because I ended up doing what I loved. And I was tired, but my heart was full of joy, and so I think it was beautiful, honestly.
And how was the environment like in the gymnastics? Because you were talking just about it. Were you feeling sometimes like frustrated, forced by anyone to be an excellent athlete? How was that?
Honestly, I feel like gymnastics was a very good sport for me because it was really hard on me mentally, and I think that I am now the woman that I am now because of partially because of that. I
Yeah.
feel like it was such a beautiful sport. However, this is not like only that happen only at my gym. It actually happens a lot in which maybe coaches have like maybe they don't know how to direct the message that they want to little girls. There's always like some favoritism going on. I was sadly
Yeah.
not the favorite because there was a lot of nepotism and, the other girls used to have like more economic resources than me, so it ended up putting me in like the abilities pyramid. I was always down. So there was only one coach that had faith in me, luckily, and I think that was enough for me to carry forward. And I think in my last years, I really proved that they couldn't do anything to put me aside because I was good and I deserved to be there. Of course, I'm very thankful to everyone for the opportunity, but and I am happy that I was there, but honestly, it was very hard because of that, especially when you're 12 years old and you start to realize how the world actually works.
With all the changes like you were going through, do you feel that you had a normal childhood?
I feel like at a certain point, yes, I did. For example, when I was in volleyball, I
Hmm.
only had practice like twice a week and it was only like 1 hour. And I used to compete maybe like once a month because it was just like recreational sports in school. But when I joined gymnastics, that started changing a little bit when I was just like 10 years old. That was the age when I first made the national team. I had to practice every day, even Saturdays. And in weekdays, I will just go, as I said before, like from 5 a.m. to like 2 p.m. in school. And then I will just go directly to practice from like 3 p.m. to like 7 p.m. So I used to go back home at like 8 to 9 p.m. because the gym was like very far from my house. So, of course, like playing with my friends in the streets was no. Obviously, and also with my friends in school, they not all the time, but sometimes I will not get invited to stuff because they assume that I was not going to be able to go, which was hard. And I honestly, I was just like in a different mindset, I feel like, because when you start doing high performance sports, you have to grow so much faster. You start learning abilities that are prior to like adolescence or adulthood even. So definitely I don't think I had a normal childhood, but I also don't think that was bad, honestly. I feel like all the children, sorry, should have a sport and something that they should focus on because if not, they will just like stay after school watching the TV or in the screens that don't bring anything back to them.
Yeah, I totally get that. How do you transition from being in gymnastics to track? How was that transition? Was
That
that during?
actually, sorry.
No, you're good. What? You're good. Continue.
That was actually something that we were talking about before. It had to do with the fact that how was I was and I'm not saying that I was treated bad, but sometimes I was not treating equally because my resources were not the same as like my other
Mhm.
teammates that I loved, but it was not their fault, but it ended up happening that they had more opportunities because of the connections and the money that they had. And my parents used to see that and they will also like spend a lot of money, not only in lessons, but like on training camps, travels, uniforms. So it was very expensive for us.
Yeah.
So when the pandemic came to Nicaragua, we shut down practices in person and I used to do them online in Zoom. We will connect for 2 hours online. And I don't actually remember how that happened, but I do remember that my mom was like having a very hard time economically by that time. And she was like, being starting in entrepreneurship. So she was not able
Yeah.
to take me to practices anymore. And as I told you, the place was really far. And so she was like, I don't think this is benefiting you anymore. And also, some of my coaches and people in the environment were pretty clear that I didn't have much future anymore. So that's something that my mother was aware of because of they told her to and
Yeah.
just how they treated me. And she was like, I don't think actually this actually is benefiting you anymore. I feel like it's just putting you in a direction that it's not serving you for anything. So she was like, you're done with gymnastics, basically.
And how do you react to this? Like, it
At
must be
first,
like really, really, really hard.
it was so hard because I loved and I still love the sport so much. It
Yeah.
was like something that filled my heart, and I deeply knew that for just for the situation in the country, like, the resources
Hmm.
are not good enough for like any gymnast to develop to like a high performance level. I do wanted to come to the NCAA as a gymnast by that time, but it was so hard for me because I used to be in the mindset that I don't know how long this is gonna be for because I was just thinking about that. I don't know how long this is gonna be for, but I'm going to enjoy every day doing it. And when that happened, I was like heartbroken, honestly. and I was crying for like a whole week. But then my mother was like, "Stop crying. I think you can find another sport that you will really like." And the Institute of Sports in my country, it's just like a 5 minute drive to my house. So she took me one afternoon. And so you enter the street of the whole institute where there are like
Yep.
different sport areas. And so in the right was the track, in the left was volleyball. And so my mom told me like, what direction do you want to go? And I decided to go in the right, sorry. I decided to drive to the right, and she drove to the right, and I stepped on the track, and one coach just took me, and I started doing lessons with him, and here I am now.
Wow. And
Yeah.
during track, how did everything change? Like the teammates, the environment, the fact that there were coaches telling you you cannot do this anymore, you don't have potential. How is that different in track?
It was so different because back in track, apparently I discovered that my body, because I was very insecure of my body in gymnastics, because they
Mhm.
told me that I was too heavy, too tall, that I was not flexible enough. So, and then in track, my body was like, it was built for track. So that's why when the first coach saw me, he took me with him, and then they started talking to me about like breaking national records just in the first month and making the national team. So by that time, I joined a club it's not my club anymore, but they were very supportive towards me. They were very supportive towards me. And, it was so different. And my teammates were also like pretty supportive, of course. In sports, I always know that there's like jealousy and stuff going around. Like,
Yeah.
not everything can be perfect. But I definitely felt more comfortable in the environment that I was in.
Wow. And how's like that process of like shining into track? I know like everyone starts from zero whenever you're like entrepreneur, you're an athlete, you're doing whatever, you start from zero. So can you talk to us about that process? Because I know like later on time, you set national records. You
Yeah.
went to Central American and Pan American games. Can you tell us that process? And now like of course you had losses, of course you have winnings. Like how was that too?
I feel like it was pretty smooth for me because okay, in gymnastics, when I was 14, I was old. Like I was done. Like I was almost done. That's how
Yeah.
gymnastics works. It's like more of like a sports for kids. Meanwhile, in track, I discovered that I was like very young. So I felt
Mhm.
that I had time to build myself. And I also was like so tired of doing the national team that I was like, when they used to tell me about setting national records and like doing the national team, I will just be like, I'm going to do everything that I like. I'm going to do my best, but I was not expecting anything. I wanted to take it more, like with more with more time and just enjoy it. Just do a sport because you enjoy it. I had a long time that I didn't do it. I feel like there's like a difference between doing a sport recreationally and as a high performance athlete.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to experience being recreational for just a little bit. So I think it was pretty smooth. And then I just started getting better and better. And the federation called me for the national team. And of course, I was not going to say no. That happened just before having 1 year in the sport,
Wow.
which was pretty soon and pretty crazy, but I feel like it was fun.
Yeah. I think it's when you find the right place where you have to be.
Yeah,
Because like sometimes when you're like forcing yourself to be in spaces like you don't have to be there, then things are not gonna get the way you want, or things
exactly.
are not gonna be like going smoothly as you were telling. But when you're in the right place, but you still work hard for it, like
Yeah,
you can have good results and people are gonna be watching you and giving you
definitely.
opportunities. But you still need to work hard for it.
Yeah, I feel like when you're not meant to be in a place, life and God will always redirect you. And I feel like if you are able to look at that redirection as that instead of rejection, that's when growth occurs.
Yeah. I know that you made a lot of sacrifices, as I told at the beginning of the podcast, like we have been friends for a time. And not only like sacrifices in your academic life, but also in your personal life, like saying no to some weekends, saying no to I cannot stay longer at night because I have to wake up early tomorrow, or I cannot go to this sleepover, this hangout, whatever, because I have this competition. And you're inviting me, you and your mom like inviting me to like watch you in competitions and then keep you growing. I think that was just such a cool like role model to see. Like I can now see like I work for like athletes here where I go to college, and I really admire like each one of them. I know
Yeah.
sacrifices that come around, like especially for those that come from like different countries, and there are like a lot of challenges they gotta face. So it's just really
Yeah.
something I really admire
Yeah.
because that was a challenge for you too.
It's been a challenge, but I feel like it's also been beautiful. And I feel like just thinking like looking at the challenges as an opportunity to grow, as I was telling you late like earlier, and also like just imagining that if I never had this opportunity, where would I be? And then
Yeah.
you have the perspective that you're facing the challenges because this is where you're meant to be. You know, accomplishing your dreams cannot be easy.
No.
Never. Yeah.
And how do you find like the right mentors to follow? I know like going into athletics into this world is not only like preparing your body physically but also like mentally.
Yeah.
Were there like some issues you find like who help you in those moments?
Yeah, definitely. One of the things, just going back to gymnastics, that it left me was perfectionism.
Yep.
Gymnastics always like gymnasts are always like mentally built to be perfect. That's what the sport is about, having that perfect 10 in your screen besides your name, right? So
Yeah.
you can never make a mistake, and you learn that in all of the areas of your life. So just transitioning into track when instead of having that 10 when the scoreboard didn't have the time or the mark that I wanted, I would crash out. And you know what? Something very often that used to happen to me, it's that I used to perform very well in practices, but in competition, I used to like literally cry in every competition when I was a jumper because you see in track, I'm a curler currently, and before I started like my first discipline was like sprints and then jumps, and I stayed
Hmm.
like 1 year or 2 years there, and I used to cry a lot. I even injured myself many times because I lacked concentration. But more than concentration, I like trust in myself. And I used to look people higher than me and just stop and I just stopped trusting myself. And when I used to be in the Central American level. And for some years, I even thought that not coming to the NCAA was going to be possible for me at all.
Wow.
So I feel like finding the right mentors was definitely something that really built my career. Of course, my main mentor will always be my mother. I feel like she's like the strongest and hardworking woman that I've ever met. And she tells me like, I don't want you to be like me, but I definitely do because she has been the one that supports me not only economically, but also just in every aspect, just showing up in every meet, showing up in every practice, not letting anyone step me up. I feel like it's been really important. And also,
Yeah.
just listening to my coaches. My coach from Nicaragua, Sergio Pupo, he doesn't like being recognized, but I will always recognize him because he outgrew me from that victim mentality because he was in the military, so he put me into that military mindset.
Wow.
And I feel like coming here to the NCAA, I feel honestly that you were one of my mentors, Estefania. You were the one who opened the eyes for me that as a Nicaraguan, this is possible, and you like really like taught me how this like everything worked, and you also inspired me a lot in the academic part because I know how hard you work for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm gonna start crying here. I'm gonna just make like a brief pause for people that I haven't told maybe this story. We both met in Model UN in high school. We were both like really competitive really competitive and like really passionate about like debating.
Yeah.
And so after that, we start just hanging out and being friends like after the debates and after like arguing with each other in the debates. Like after that, we
Yeah.
just became really good friends. And then when I came here and I won my scholarship here at college, I started like encouraging Alejandra to like apply to the scholarship or like apply to abroad because like I I do like encourage a lot of education, but I knew also like you were an athlete and you were like deserving more than what you were looking for. The first things like you were like pointing out first, like the first scholarships, like I know you deserve more and now like you're like in a high division
Yeah.
university. So yeah, I think like everything comes like for an effort. Like if even if you're not an athlete, if you're listening to this, okay, you're not an athlete, maybe you're an entrepreneur, you're just like an academic research, whatever. Um, if you're in the right place, if you believe in God, if you're gonna be in the right place, things are gonna work out, but
Yeah.
also like put your effort too. And
Yeah.
like find the right mentorships, the right friendships, the right guidance to your life
Yeah.
too.
God
Yeah.
always sees your heart
Yeah,
and your efforts. So I feel like, yeah, that's what you said is really important. And definitely finding friends just like you and me are. I feel like we both help each other and we always put ourselves in like a high level, you know? So definitely finding the right friendships is very important. Someone that has
true.
the same goals as you or someone that pushes you and doesn't see you with jealousy, but like as a way as an inspiration if you're doing something bigger or something that you want to do. I feel that also is a very high part of the job.
Exactly. I don't feel like any dream is crazy. Like part of becoming her, part
Yeah,
of becoming the woman you want is stop saying to yourself, this dream is too crazy for me, or this goal is too high for me or for my standards. Like, girl, trust me, you can, if you have that desire in your heart, that's for a reason. That's like a valid reason. And if maybe that doesn't work out, there's gonna be another door that is gonna open for you. As I mentioned, like in my first episode, like there is always someone watching your effort, someone like, well, apart from God, but like someone else watching your effort and seeing your discipline, your talent, like everything you're doing. And in this case, like someone apart from the coaches, like the person that recruited you here to the US, they were watching you and they
yeah.
wanted you to be here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I started my career in the NCAA in Brigham Young University,
Yeah.
and then I entered a transfer portal, like in my second semester there, and now I'm here in the University of Utah, and definitely now I have conversations with my current coach, and we just laughed. Well, we actually were just laughing at this weekend. I was actually in Arkansas in Fayetteville in the
Yeah.
University of Arkansas competing, and we're just having lunch, and we were laughing because we knew each other. We were like in the same competition, but um, and she saw me in the home meet in the University of Utah that I was competing for BYU, and she saw me, and then like I just when I entered the transfer portal, she was the first one that I connected with, and it ended up working out. And now she tells me that she felt, you know, like before I came here, that she felt a connection with me, that she felt that
Oh,
maybe I was going to transfer, and if it did, that she definitely, and if I decided to do it, that she definitely wanted to connect with me before.
yeah. I think at the end, like sometimes we experience being on the wrong places, in this case, the wrong sports, the wrong teams. And
Yeah,
then we encounter people watching and people recognizing the effort. And I think like you just get proud of yourself every day. I mean, sometimes like part of being an athlete, it's winning, is also losing, but like at the end, just never forget what you have been through. And like little you will be so proud of you.
literally. Honestly, I feel like winning is 10% of the game and losing is like the 90% because I feel like I I am like I have accomplished what I have accomplished, and I feel still have a lot of to accomplish yet. So, but part of my accomplishments have been because I failed. I fell. I literally fell like to my face in the track. I've literally like not big maybe, you know, coming here there you're gonna have like maybe 10, 20 no's and one yes, and the yes it's the one that actually counts. So that also like it's a failure, or like, you know, in practices sometimes stuff doesn't work out or in competitions, but it's what you learn and how you interpret it. That's what is actually gonna define your story, honestly. Yeah.
And what are your plans next up? Like, are you, well, you're still a sophomore. You were still like undecided on your major and all that
Yeah.
part, but I think that's perfectly fine. Like, we're young and it's okay. You don't know like your major, what you want to do with your life. I think it's
Yeah.
completely fine. Just keep trying.
Yeah.
But like, what's something you want to accomplish now for future?
For the future, well, for this year, I have many goals, honestly. Well, you know, I am a sophomore, but I feel like time is flying by so fast. So
Yeah.
in every competition, I just feel that I'm missing something, that I'm losing something, sorry. And, you know, for as of now, I just feel really thankful to be here. So I honestly want to prove to the program that trusted me enough. You know, us being, you know, from Nicaragua, we can be very talented, but we don't have that much. We don't have like no one knows about us because we're in the other side of the world. So I just feel very thankful that they saw me and they saw my potential. So I want to score as higher as I can for my program, for my school. This is here for the next maybe 2 months or three. And when I go back to Nicaragua, I want to wear that blue uniform definitely and still compete for my national team. It's summer, it's a little bit tiring. My body is like, I just want to sleep. I want to be a normal person and go to the beach with my friends, but
Yeah.
there's a part in me that has like this much joy when I put the flag high of my country and win medals or do records or just being there. I feel like it's enough for me to be proud of representing my country, and I want to do that in the Central American Games. We have those coming up. I want to go to the North Caribbean and the NACA Games, that it's North America, Central America, and the islands, which is a very high level competition.
Wow.
And a lot of the athletes there also are from are from their countries but end up coming here, so we are all very prepared and very competitive with each other. So I want to be there, and if God wants it, and I put the enough effort, and I would like to win a medal over there, and definitely enjoying the process. God wants to, maybe the Olympics, the World Championships,
Yeah,
and
you never know.
you never know. But
Yeah.
that's my dream. That has
Yeah.
always been my dream. And if it's not in 228, maybe 232, I'm still young. So
Yeah.
that's how it's life right now and my goals. But of course, everything can change. But as of now, those are my aspirations.
Yeah. And you're gonna be whenever you have to be. Like
Exactly.
whatever God wants you to be in that part of your life.
Definitely.
Yeah. Is there like something you would like to share for girls listening to you, athletes or non-athletes, or all the women becoming her that you would like to share?
Well, I feel like becoming her, it's not, I feel like there's a very mistaken concept in social media about what it's been her. I used to watch when I was 15 those contents of high quality women, or like women just, success meaning a lot of money, or like a husband, or I don't know, just very superficial things that are like okay, but I feel like that doesn't define success, honestly. I feel like success, it's more about like doing what you want for the sake of it, not because you want something in exchange. And I think that's when it actually, like, your accomplishments actually happen. So I will say, like, do not let social media let you think less of yourself because you don't have a Lamborghini, because you don't have a house at 21, and because
Yeah.
you don't have the richest husband, and that,
In
that's
your 20s? Yeah.
in your 20s. So don't feel bad about that. I don't have that either. But honestly, even though like there's a lot of people
Me
like
either.
me here, I feel very successful because this is what I wanted to be, so very doing a lot of inner retrospection and figuring
Mhm.
out what you want may not be easy, but I feel like it's the best way to define your happiness and who you want to be in the future. And failure is always going to be the thing that is going to push you forward to what you actually want to be.
Thank you so much, Ale, for being here. Thank you for being part of the podcast and sharing your story. This is gonna become like really, really powerful, and I'm really thankful to also have you in my life as a friend.
Thank you for inviting me, and for having me here. I of course, first of all, enjoy talking to you and enjoy, sharing a little bit of my story, and I know that this message is going to be powerful because becoming her podcast will be in the mainstream area.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for spending time with us. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow the podcast and share with a woman who's becoming her. If you want your story to be shared, please email becomingherpodcast29@gmail.com. See you next time.